cybercrime is?
That's the million-dollar question these days.
Oh, okay. It's not truly defined yet?
Well, you know, the laws haven't quite caught up with reality.
With the crimes.
With the crimes, exactly. So what cybercrime is it's any sort of computer or technology-facilitated crime against a child.
Okay.
So in one sentence, that's what it is.
So what are some of these crimes that have been defined?
You know, there's the sort of the age-old child pornography and distribution and creation of child pornography, which of course has been around for ages. But now, since the onset of the internet and the onset of the expanding technology, we now have crimes that have to do with stalking on the internet. We have crimes that have to do with luring children or exploiting children, or somehow trying to meet children and do things to children that bad guys, for lack of a better term, use this technology to do.
So how do they do this?
Well, I think they do this in a variety of ways. More often than not, they either use their computer or their smartphone or some website or some chat room to figure out a way to find out where the kids are. And once they find out where the kids are, which is not too hard to do, then they meet them, they talk to them, they groom them, and eventually they meet them.
So where are they finding the kids?
These days, you know, it changes all the time, and week to week we're finding new places that they're finding them. But they're finding them a lot of times on chat rooms, on Facebook or social networking sites, a lot of video games, Xbox, Nintendo, Wii video games that are all now connected to the internet. A lot of the predators who are out there know where the kids go, and the kids go to chat rooms, they go to game sites, they play video games, and so they talk to them, meet them, and get to know them very well.
I always make the assumption on this show that my viewers out there, those parents, are about as dumb as I am when it comes to actually knowing what these games are and how somebody could meet my kid because my kid is online playing a game.
Well, you know, that's interesting because you remember, and probably many of your viewers remember, the very first video game, Pac-Man? Remember where there was like a little dot and it ate the other little dots?
Yes,
that was kind of what those of us of this generation remember video games to be. And it was just a screen with a, you know, little toggle things that you held on to get the little dots, to eat the other little dots. Well, video games aren't like that anymore. Video games are now interactive, they're violent, they are just about every subject matter you can possibly imagine, from Barbie and My Little Pony to, you know, X-Men and, you know, every military outfit you can think of. But not only are they elaborate and very interactive, but they're connected to the internet, which means when your child is playing video games with a headset on and a microphone attached, that means they can play that video game with anybody else who's playing that video game anywhere in the world. So you may think that little Johnny is playing video games with his best friend Billy down the street, when in fact, on the good side, he could be playing with some kid his age, 10 or 12 years old, whatever age, in, you know, in Korea or Sydney, Australia, or Japan, which would be wonderful. And that's kind of the good side of this whole internet thing. But the reality is, there are bad people on the other end of those video games, and predators know that kids love video games, and so what they will do is, predators are amazingly good at child development. Every time we interview these guys, we find out that they're very smart, and they're very bright, and they're very keen and tuned in to what the kids do, what the kids like, what the latest fad is, what the games are, how they game, what the nomenclature is, all those things. So do they go to class for this, or they just individually have this? Predator 101?
Yeah. Well, when I hear you say that they're smart, that they know what the kids like, that all these things that they know, they just come to learn that by practice?
Well,
or do they talk to others?
Well, they for sure talk to others. But you have to remember, when we're talking about predators, we're not talking about sort of that old-fashioned idea of, you know, kind of the creepy guy in the trench coat that hangs out in the alley. That's kind of the old-fashioned ideal of what a bad guy is. You know, somebody who's maybe going to open the trench coat and scare everybody.
Expose themselves,
exactly. But it's not like that anymore. Now, the people that we're talking about, when I refer to, you know, internet predators or sexual predators, it's kind of the guy next door for the most part. And when I talk about or think about who I've prosecuted over the years for these kinds of crimes, it's not the creepy guy in the trench coat. It's, you know, it's the teacher or the lawyer or the doctor or the judge or the soccer coach. And that's what makes it even scarier. So how do they learn this stuff? By talking to each other and just by being very, very good at technology and very, very wise about children and the things that children do.
So when a kid has a game, and it just seems like a game, well, some of them are very violent, some of them are awful, but some of them, I guess, are nice games. Mm-hmm. The mere fact that they own the game and are connected to the internet means there are other people that join them to play the game.
Exactly.
And those others can be anybody that owns the same game.
Exactly. What I tell parents is, if you don't know who you're talking to, then you don't know who you're talking to. So if you aren't sure that the username is, you know, Billy101, who happens to be your son or daughter's best friend, if you don't know exactly who that person is that they're talking to, then you don't have any idea, because Billy101 could be calling himself a 12-year-old boy when in fact he's a 47-year-old man. So you don't know what you don't know.
So logging in, and that's what I remember I said that I'm assuming that my parent viewers are as smart as I am, knowing little about all this cyber stuff. And part of that, the parents' inability to have taken the time to understand the full parameters. You know, Johnny wants whatever this game is, so the game is purchased. That's the end of it. He's in his room. She's in her room. Thumbs going. Nobody knows what's going on.
Exactly. We tell our kids, don't talk to strangers, and then we buy them the video games and let them connect to the internet and talk to strangers, basically.
So what is the parent should be doing when it comes to these games?
Well, you know, that's a perfect question.
Of course, in my house it's real simple. We just didn't buy them.
Don't have the games, yeah. Well, that's obviously one option. But I think, you know, in this day and age, that's what kids do. But I think parents really need to educate themselves. If they're going to buy, you know, X-Men 2 for their kids to play, then they need to know exactly how they're playing it. Have your child show you, hey, Billy, how's that game work? And what do you mean you have to fill out a profile? What do you mean you have a username? Well, what's in that profile? What do you mean you're putting our address, or what school you go to, or how old you are, or your birth date, or what city you live in? Those are the kinds of things that the profiles ask, just like a profile on, you know, any other kind of a website. So parents should be aware when they first sign on to that game